to be talking about King Lear today, and politics, of course, because that's how I generally do things, isn't it? And in my last video, I actually mentioned King Lear, didn't I? I am in the context of the ravings of Putin's propagandist. It was a TV show. I don't know the fella's name, but he was demonstrating with terrific graphics the effects of the unleashed fury of Russia on the British Isles. He showed, a bomb exploding and the British Isles just sort of burning away in a huge tidal wave. Yeah, he's not the first tyrant who wanted Britain to just go away. Napoleon called Britain Perfidious Albion. Albion, it got that name from the chalk cliffs, which are white. And it always struck me as, sort of rather appropriate that tyrants like Napoleon got defeated by basically a lump of chalk, a habit that teachers used to employ quite frequently when dealing with unruly students, sort of. My teacher used to throw the blackboard rubber at us. It was a wooden thing, it wasn't like a rubber. It had a felt bottom and a wooden handle. Anyway, maybe we should make Putin take a lump of chalk and write 50 times on the blackboard, "I must not threaten the British Isles with violence, because if you do, it never ends well." Honestly, the very idea, it's crazy. You can see how crazy the Russians have got, that they can explode one bomb and sink the entire British Isles under the sea when they've been out of the water for the past 3 billion years. By the way, I also said that the Irish thought that maybe, I thought the Irish may have something to say about this, and indeed they did. I just heard an Irish radio show in which they were discussing this very thing. That whole bit of graphics reminded me of the fantasies of a gambler who's having a losing streak and fantasizes about winning the lottery, even though he doesn't even have the money to buy a ticket with. Anyway, yeah, that's it. Fantasies are the only comfort of a loser, aren't they? All right, what's next on my notes? I want to say I'm saying that in the kindest possible way. But the more I thought about King Lear, the more I thought how appropriate it is becoming as a story. And even though at first flush you don't think the two stories are the same, the more I think about it, the more appropriate it becomes. So let's have a look at the story of King Lear and an overreaching Putin. And let's see what you think. First of all, King Lear, as most of you will know, is a Shakespeare tragedy. And it's just about the bleakest in the entire Shakespeare canon, I suppose. It's set in pre-Christian England, and it's the story of a king who is getting old and tired of his royal duties, and he's decided that he's going to just let go of them and give his duties and his kingdom over to his 3 daughters. Now, as we know from our present monarch, being old and tired is no excuse to drop the chains of office, especially when you've been anointed in a church and believe that's given you a contract with God, which you have to, which you can't break. Only God can break it. In King Lear, we have a tyrant who's decided to take it easy. And his plan is to hand over, as I said, to hand over his kingdom to his 3 daughters. It's not wise. But the king is apparently the sort of person who really doesn't like to take advice, nor does he like to be contradicted. And therefore, when one daughter, Cordelia, who turns out to be as, well, obdurate as her dad really, she won't play that game and flatter him, like the other daughters who more or less tell him the sun shines out of his backside, she won't do that. And he banishes her and gives her 1/3 of her inheritance to the other 2 girls, women rather. Now, these 2 women, Goneril and Regan, are willing to lie to get what they want. And so they're not very honourable people. And it turns out they're also willing to throw their old dad on the scrap heap because that's the way they are. And he gets rather irritated when they don't pay him the respect he thinks he deserves, even though he's relinquished the obligations of his position as king, and so really he has no right to demand the respect that those obligations confer. Now, without effective power, the king, he's lost his private army. He starts off with an army, but bit by bit that gets shaved away. He ends up shouting at a thunderstorm and taking shelter in a ruined farmhouse on a deserted heath. And the thing is, and that's what reminded me of it, he's threatening all sorts of retaliation, and he doesn't have the resources to follow through on that. And it was that bit of graphics that reminded me of it. So, well, this is how most people see the story. But let's take another look at that. It's not just a story about a man who wants to run away from his responsibilities and duties and then gets annoyed when people don't pay him the proper respect. And let's look at it from a more general point of view, but a more basic human point of view. Here we have a tyrant who believes he's entitled to universal respect. And when that's not forthcoming, he banishes the honest people and he falls for what the flatterers say. This is irrespective of the business with the daughters and the inheritors. It's somebody who reckons he has a holy position and thinks that even if he's in a weak position, he can demand that people respect him as if he were in a strong one. This course of action that he takes ends up in a devastating war, and with the king eventually finding himself completely isolated and friendless. His only loyal retainer is the fool, and the fool is murdered by the minions of the 2 evil daughters, and his most precious possession, his daughter Cordelia, you might call her his legacy, she gets murdered as well. So he's left with nothing. Now, it's been pointed out that if Cordelia had been a bit more diplomatic, none of this would have happened. And there is a case to be made for that. All she had to do was mouth some formulaic words and keep her counsel, and the king would have given her her 1/3 of the inheritance. And you can be quite sure that even if the 2 other girls had thrown him out, he would have taken up residence with Cordelia, and at least he would have been all right. But no, she wouldn't play his game. and he wouldn't accept anything less than complete submission to his wishes. So, or at least the appearance of it, because he was just very interested in appearances, wasn't he? So neither of them profited. But of course, I'd say the king got the worst of it, because he has to confront the mayhem he's sparked with his grandiose ideas. And when he dies, his kingdom is then left to a couple of, well, competent, well-meaning, but second-rate bureaucrats to sort out. Yet, at the end of the play, order is restored, but the unity of the kingdom is very badly damaged, and it won't be easily re-established. And the best, the most imaginative, the most honest people, the most creative of the kingdom, they're all gone. They've either run away or they've been disposed of. Now, doesn't that sound very much like what's happening in Russia? And here we come to the knowledge that Shakespeare always managed to not only to tell a story, but to tell humanity what humanity was. And unfortunately, Putin is following his what Shakespeare said about such people when they become too wrapped up in themselves. My opinion, Russia could still defeat Ukraine if Ukraine doesn't have any other armies coming in, and I do hope they don't, as horrible as that is. But if Russia declares war, if Putin declares war on Ukraine, he can have a general call-up, and then they can swamp Ukraine with just masses of conscripts who will end up getting killed in large part, but they will finally plod their way across Ukraine. There won't be much left for Russia to benefit from that, and they will be isolated. And it won't be a win for Russia either. Nobody's going to win in that situation. It's just like in King Lear. Russia will die after Ukraine's died. The daughter, the future, will die with both of them. I just hope that, I mean, you can hope, not that Putin will see sense, but that the people surrounding him will see sense. That's the only really serious chance we have now. All right, well, that's my take on King Lear and the Ukrainian war. I am Graniopteryx. I am to be found on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute and Minds as @Graniopteryx. I'm on Twitter, Gab and Parler, and I let you know that I've uploaded a video on on all of those platforms. So if you subscribe to one of them, you'll not miss a video. Right, that's it. Please like this video, share it, support my channel if you can, and make sure your subscription is still subscribing itself. All right, I think that's it. Yep. Until next time. Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the Graniopteryx design or Granbo with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.graniopteryx.com and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share.